The stranger at the border wall mark stood on the edge of the old metal wall, his rifle resting against his shoulder. The sun was setting behind thick red clouds, painting the ground below in blood-colored light. This place used to be farmland now. It was a dead zone between two broken worlds, Earth and what used to be the Eastern Alien Territories. He wasn't supposed to shoot unless someone crossed the line. Mark had been guarding this section of the refugee border for over a month. Nothing ever happened here. Just wind, dust, and sometimes whispers. Some said the aliens out there had monsters with them. Some said the aliens were the monsters. Then he saw her. She wasn't walking. She was crawling. Her skin was pale violet and thin like old paper. Her legs dragged behind her, bloody and burned. One of her arms held something as smaller. Body. Mark's breath caught. The child she carried looked younger. Female. About 15 in human years. Her long white hair was tied in a messy knot, and she clutched her mother tightly. Mark raised his rifle. Stop right there. The alien woman froze. Her body trembled. She looked up, her eyes large, glowing faint blue in the red sunset. Then she spoke not in alien language, but in broken English. Double quotes human. ... Please, I give her to you. Mark frowned. What? The woman tried to crawl forward again, but collapsed. Her arm barely reaching over the line. She pushed the girl forward, whispering something into her ear. The girl didn't move. She was too still, too scared. The mother coughed, blood spilling from her mouth. She single quotes, as ... yours. You take her. Keep her alive. Mark stepped closer. His boots crunched on burnt soil. The girl flinched and pulled away, her hands tightening around the mother's shredded clothes. I don't understand, Mark said. The mother's eyes locked onto his. They come. I can't run more. She can. You're human. You protect. Then Mark heard it. A sound in the distance, low, deep. Like a growl mixed with the whine of machines. His earpiece buzzed. Multiple life forms incoming, not human. 8 to 90 seconds. The mother looked behind her. Panic filled her face. She grabbed Mark's hand and shoved something into it. A small metal chip. Give her name. Lyra, please. Promise. Mark looked down at the girl. She stared at him with quiet, glowing eyes. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just waited. The wind shifted. A shape moved over the ridge tall, armored. Inhuman. Nock didn't have time to think. He scooped the girl into his arms. Command, I'm extracting a civilian now. A minor crossing the line now. He turned and ran. The alarm behind him started howling. Sky above turned orange as unseen ships passed overhead. Lyra didn't say a word. She just held on to him like he was the last thing that existed. 10 minutes later, deep inside a hidden shelter, Mark locked the door behind him. He set Lyra down on a cot and checked the tiny chip the mother gave him. It flashed once, then died. Mark sighed. What the hell just happened? Lyra finally spoke. Her voice was soft and cold. My mother is dead. Mark paused. She gave you to me, he said slowly. Lyra nodded. She gave me away. To live. Mark sat on a crate and stared at her. She looked half-starved, her skin. Dull lips cracked, but her eyes held something strange. Not fear, not anger. Control. Double quotes. What were you running from? He asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked up at the ceiling and whispered, They will come here too. They never stop. Mark leaned forward. Who? Who are they? Lyra blinked slowly. They are not after Earth. They are after me. Felt a chill creep down his spine. Outside, the storm was rising again. Wind screamed past the shelter walls. the sensors beeped quietly. A soft blue light glowed from Lyra's hands, but faded just as fast. "What are you?" Mark whispered. The girl looked straight into his eyes. "I don't know, but I was made for something." The power cut for a moment, and the room went dark. Then came the first knock on the bunker door. Asterisk, a life for a life. The knock came again, louder this time. Not human. It didn't sound like fists. It was heavier, like a claw. Or metal scraping. Against metal, Mark turned off the backup lights and signaled Lyra to stay quiet. She was already standing, her bare feet silent against the cold floor, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The knock stopped. Silence returned, but it felt wrong. Like something was still listening from the other side. Mark whispered, "Go in too. The storage room, hide behind the crates. If they come in, don't move." Lyra didn't argue. She walked calmly into the next room and vanished into the shadows. Mark lifted his rifle and moved to the door's security screen. It flickered and buzzed, but finally showed a blurry image. A tall gray figure stood outside. Its body was armored with dark scales, and its face had no mouth, only 6 red lights for eyes. It wasn't trying to break in, it was just standing there. Then it spoke. Through the speaker, "Human, you have taken something not yours." Its voice was cold and mechanical. "She does not belong to your kind. Return the asset." Mark pressed the come button. She crossed the border. "That makes her a refugee. I followed Earth protocol." "You misunderstand," the voice replied. "She is not a child. She is a genetic container." Mark frowned. "A what? Return her, or be marked as a traitor to all systems. You have 1 cycle." Then the image vanished. Inside the storage room, Lyra sat on the floor, her hands pressed against her knees. Her heart beat fast, but her face stayed calm. Her kind had been hunted before. She knew the voice. She knew what they wanted, not her. Body. Her code. Her mother had told her stories of ancient machines and experiments. Of a race that had built her not as a person, but as a vessel. A living vault holding something they feared, something even they couldn't destroy. She didn't know what it was yet. But they did, and they wanted it back. Mark bolted the door again and returned to her. "They called you a container." Does that mean? Lyra looked up. "It means I'm not supposed to feel, or think, or choose. But you do." She nodded. "Because my mother changed me." Mark knelt down. "Listen, I don't know what you are. I don't care. You asked me to protect you." "That means something. You don't even know me," she said softly. Mark shrugged. "I didn't know my sister when I pulled her from a crashed car either. People don't earn protection. They need it." For the first time, Lyra's expression softened. Then her voice dropped. "If they come inside, they will kill you. They don't care who you are." Mark smiled bitterly. "I figured that out already." He handed her a small energy bar. "Eat this. Get some strength. We might need to move soon." Lyra took it, but her hands trembled. "Mark," she whispered. "What?" "I think I know why they want me." Mark looked at her, waiting. Lyra closed her eyes. "I saw something in my dreams. A room filled with lights and wires. And a machine shaped like a human. It spoke in my voice." Mark's eyes narrowed. "What did it say?" Lyra looked straight at him. It said, "I will wake when war begins." The silence that followed was heavier than the walls around them. That night, Mark watched the monitors while Lyra slept, curled in the corner with a blanket. He read over the small chip her mother gave him. Most of it was encrypted, but a single file opened. It was a message from her mother. "To whoever finds this, she is not a weapon. She is a warning. If you unlock her too soon, you will not survive the war that follows. Keep her safe. Keep her innocent. Mark leaned back and rubbed his face so the girl wasn't just valuable. She was dangerous. But the strange part was, she didn't feel dangerous. She laughed when she thought no one was looking. She asked what birds were. She cried when she saw a flower crushed under Mark's boot. She was more human than some humans he knew. And now, something out there wanted to break her, not on his watch. The next morning, the bunker shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Sirens blared. Mark pulled Lyra to her feet. "They're not waiting for a response anymore," he said. "They're coming in." Lyra's eyes changed, color from blue to bright gold. "I won't let them take me," she said, and for the first time, Mark believed she meant it. The human who didn't run the bunker trembled again. Mark grabbed his gear and looked toward the entrance. Dust was falling in thin streams. The outer scanners were dead now, blasted by whatever tech the enemy was using. They weren't knocking any more. They were coming in, Lyra, Mark said firmly. "Listen to me. If they breach the first door, we drop down into the tunnel. I set traps there months ago. We can slow them down." But Lyra didn't move. She stood completely still, eyes glowing golden, her hands pressed to the cold wall. "Lyra," her voice was calm. "They're not here for you. They only want me." Mark growled. "Yeah, and I'm not letting them take you. But if I go out there, they'll kill you, or worse." He snapped. Lyra finally looked at him. "Then why do you care? You could just give me back. Trade me. Save yourself." Mark stared at her. She didn't say it with anger, just curiosity. As if no one had ever cared before. "Because I'm human," Mark said, jaw tight. "That's what we do. We protect the ones who can't protect themselves." She blinked, and then something shifted in her eyes. A warmth, a spark of understanding. "Okay," she whispered. "Then I'll fight too." The door slammed again. This time, a dent formed like something heavy had struck it from outside. Mark opened the side hatch and guided Lyra down the ladder into the narrow tunnel. It led deeper into the hills, where old power stations had been abandoned after the last war. As they moved, Mark placed small explosives behind them, enough to slow whatever came next. He glanced back. Lyra was walking silently behind him. Bare feet, making no sound, her expression unreadable. "You okay?" Kay asked. "I don't like small spaces," she replied. "Don't worry, it opens up ahead." But when they reached the end of the tunnel, the door there was sealed. "No, no, no," Mark muttered. He pulled out his tools, trying to override the lock. This wasn't sealed before. They must have hacked it. Lyra stepped forward. "Let me try." She placed her hand against the steel. Nothing happened for a moment. Then, the door clicked. Mark stared. "You opened it." Lyra stepped through and said softly, "I remembered the code." Inside was an old power core chamber, once used to fuel drones. Mark set up a new defense line with his rifle. He gave Lyra a canteen and a protein pack. She sat on a crate, unwrapping the food. "Did you mean it?" she asked after a while. "Mean? What?" "That humans protect people who can't protect themselves." Mark nodded. "Most of us try." She looked at the glowing wires in the ceiling. "My mother used to say the same thing, before she changed." Mark paused. "Changed?" Lyra nodded. "She was a scientist. She worked for the ones hunting me now. Back then, she believed in their mission. She helped build something. Something inside me." Mark's throat felt dry. "What did she build?" "I don't know," Lyra said honestly. "But I feel it sometimes, like a second voice. Like something is sleeping inside me." Mark swallowed hard. "Do you hear it now?" Lyra looked at him. "It only speaks when I'm afraid." Just then, a sharp beep rang out. The proximity alarm. They were coming. Mark stood and aimed his weapon. At the tunnel. You still afraid? Lyra stood beside him. Yes. Good. Then if that voice wakes up, Mark said, tell it to help us survive. The enemy arrived seconds later. The first figure came through the tunnel slowly, scanning with red eyes. It stepped onto the pressure plate Mark had set boom. The explosion shook the room, sending dust flying. 2 more entered faster this time. Learning from the first mistake, Mark fired. 1 dropped. The other was too fast. It jumped through the smoke and tackled Mark. The rifle flew from his hand. The creature pinned him down, its claw at his throat. Mark struggled, his fingers reaching for his sidearm. Then the creature froze. Ah, sound like humming filled the air. The creature backed away from Mark. Not in fear, in obedience. Mark turned. Lyra stood behind them, glowing, her body surrounded by light. Symbols floating in the air like holograms. She spoke in a voice not fully hers. Do not touch him again. The creature dropped to its knees. The humming stopped, and Lyra collapsed. Mark rushed to her and caught her before she hit the ground. Lyra. Hey, wake up. Her eyes fluttered open, normal again. What happened? She asked weakly. You just ordered it to stop, Mark said, his voice shaking. And it listened. Lyra blinked slowly. Then, I think the thing inside me is finally awake. Asterisk, her eyes changed color. The creature lay still. Its 6 red eyes were dim now. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It just waited as if frozen by Lyra's command. Mark sat beside her, still holding her upright. She looked weak, barely able to lift her head. Do you feel okay? He asked. I'm tired, Lyra whispered. That voice. It wasn't mine, but it came through me, like something old, something not from here. Mark gently placed her on the cot near the wall. He stepped over to the creature and aimed his rifle. What are you? He asked the alien. The creature turned its head slowly. My designation is Corval. I am a sentinel. Mark frowned. Then why did you attack me? I follow the directive, Corval said. Until she spoke the override code. Then I followed her. Mark glanced at Lyra. She was half asleep, but glowing softly. Her skin shimmering faintly like metal under moonlight. What is the directive? To retrieve the vessel. To return her to the Nexus. Mark narrowed his eyes. And what is the Nexus? The sentinel didn't answer. Lyra stirred. It's a vault, she whispered. A place where the old race kept things they feared. Secrets, weapons, even memories. Mark turned toward her. You've been there? No, she said weakly. But the voice inside me has later. When things calmed down, Mark activated an old projector on the wall. A glowing map of the sector appeared. Stars, trade routes, war zones. We need to move, he said. If they sent 1 scout, more are coming. Lyra sat up slowly, hugging her knees. There's a place. My mother once told me, if something ever happened, I should go to Sector V2. There's a human station there. A research outpost. Mark checked the map. That's 2 systems away. It'll take days to get there and we'll need a ship. I can help, Corval said suddenly. Mark spun around. Help? You mean betray us again? The sentinel shook its head. I am bound to her now. She carries the prime signal. Obey the prime. Mark lowered his weapon slightly. If you lie to me, I will not. My programming is rewritten. She is the new command route. Lyra stood shakily. We need your ship. Corval nodded. I have one hidden nearby. Underground. Mark sighed. Figures. Even killer robots get secret rides these days. The next morning, they moved at dawn. Lyra walked with more strength now. Her eyes were normal again till they neared the location of the hidden ship. Then, as if sensing something, her irises turned golden once more. Corval knelt beside a rocky hill and placed his hand on a stone. A section of the ground opened, revealing a sleek black vessel, half alien, half machine. Mark whistled. That's not a shuttle. That's a Ghost-class runner. Only elite units fly those. It belonged to my previous commander, Corval said. He is no more. Mark raised a brow. You killed him? No, Corval replied. Lyra did? 5 years ago. Mark stared at Lyra. Is that true? She looked confused. I don't remember. 'Cause it wasn't you, Corval added. It was the voice inside her. Mark rubbed the back of his neck. Great. So the voice. Inside you not only talks, it kills people. Lyra's voice was soft. Only when it feels threatened. Let's make sure it doesn't feel that way again. Once inside the ship, Mark took the pilot's seat. Lyra sat beside him, staring out the window. Corval entered a port chamber to connect with the ship's systems. DOS. As the engines warmed, Mark looked at her. Do you think your mother planned all of this? Lyra nodded slowly. She said, ... that one day the humans would face something too big. Something older than both our kinds. And when that day came, they would need someone like me. Mark turned to the stars. So I guess you're not just some scared kid anymore? I never was, she replied. I just didn't know what I was yet. As the ship rose into the sky, alarms lit up on the radar. 3 more ships had entered the zone, fast, armed, and definitely not human. They're here, Mark said. Korval's voice echoed from the ship's speakers. I can activate cloaking, but only for 30 seconds. After that, we will be detected. Lyra placed her hand on the control panel. Symbols appeared again in text Mark couldn't read, but the ship responded. The controls shifted. Lights turned green. Val sounded surprised. She just gave the ship new instructions, in a language I've never seen. Mark looked at Lyra. What did you do? I told it to fly faster than they can follow. And suddenly, the stars stretched. The ship leaped forward, breaking all known speed limits. Mark gripped his seat. Stunned, double quotes that, ... wasn't human tech. Lyra stared ahead. It wasn't alien either. It was mine. As the stars returned to normal, they left the danger zone. But now Mark knew something even more terrifying. Lyra wasn't just special, she was changing, and whatever she was becoming was waking up faster than anyone expected. The price of protection: the ship floated above Earth's atmosphere in stealth mode, hidden from all satellite eyes. Inside, Mark stood near the window, staring at the blue planet below. For the first time in hours, everything was quiet. But peace felt fake, like the calm before a storm behind him. Lyra sat in the corner of the control room, her knees pulled to her chest. Her eyes weren't glowing now. They looked tired, heavy, almost human. You okay? Mark asked gently. She nodded. I just hear it more now. The voice, the memories, they're clearer. What does it say? Lyra paused. That I was never supposed to be born with a mind of my own. I was meant to hold knowledge, not feelings, not fear, not hope. Mark stepped closer. But you do. You feel everything. That means you're not just a container anymore. You're a person. Lyra looked up. That's why they want to reset me. Mark frowned. Reset? They want to wipe me clean. Start over. Use the storage code and build a weapon that listens, that doesn't ask questions. Mark clenched his fists. Then we don't let them. Corval entered from the Rear chamber, his steps heavy and precise. I have contacted the Human Research Station on V2, he said. They agreed to receive us. Mark narrowed his eyes. That easy? They scanned her signal, Corval replied, glancing at Lyra. They are not ready to face what it means, but they want to study her carefully. Like a lab rat. Mark muttered. No, Lyra, said firmly. Like a tool, a machine. My mother once worked for them. I remember the rooms cold, full of lights, with people watching me through glass. Mark stepped in front of her. You're not going back to that. But we need them, Lyra whispered. They have the last message my mother sent. It might tell us everything. Mark hesitated. He didn't trust governments. Not anymore. But if Lyra's mother left information with the humans, they had no choice. He sighed. Fine. But I stay with you the whole time. Lyra gave a small smile. I wouldn't want it any other way. The station on V2 floated above a frozen moon. It was sleek and silver, shaped like a wheel with 6 docking arms. As the ship approached, dozens of laser arrays locked onto them. Do not panic, Corval said calmly. They always do this. Mark shook his head. Friendly welcome. The docking bay opened, and the ship landed gently inside the station. A group of humans in clean white suits stood waiting. In front of them was a tall woman with sharp eyes and gray hair. Welcome, Captain Mark, she said. My name is Dr. Elra Thorne. I run this facility. Mark stepped off first. You got our message? Yes, Thorne replied. Her gaze shifted to Lyra. And we've been preparing for her. Lyra stayed behind Mark, watching silently. Thorne's eyes narrowed. Is she frightened? No, Lyra said, stepping forward. I'm remembering. Thorne blinked. You speak? She speaks a lot, Mark said, his tone flat. And you're not touching her unless I say so. Thorne raised an eyebrow. Is she your prisoner? Mark smirked. No, she's under my protection. Hours later, they sat in a private meeting room. A screen showed encrypted files, one of which had the name Dr. Selah Varn. Lyra whispered, That's my mother. Thorne tapped the screen. She left a final message just before going missing. We've tried to open it for years, but the lock is DNA-coded. Meaning? Mark asked. Thorne turned to Lyra. Only her daughter can unlock it. Lyra walked to the screen and placed her hand on the panel. The screen flickered. A hologram appeared her mother's face. She looked tired, older than Lyra remembered. If you're seeing this, it means I failed to protect you. I'm sorry. They wanted a weapon. I gave them a daughter. Lyra gasped quietly. You were made from 2 bloodlines mine, and something far older. Something alien, even to me. They said you were a key, but I saw something more. You laughed when no one taught you. You cried when others didn't. You grew a soul. The message paused. To whoever holds her now, she is not yours to command. She is not a machine. If you truly protect her, then let her choose who she wants to be. The message ended. The room went silent. Dr. Thorne finally spoke. This changes nothing. She still contains knowledge that could help us win the war. Against the Dominion, Mark stood. No, it changes everything. You heard her. Lyra's not a tool. She chooses her own path. Thorne's expression hardened. And what if her choice brings danger? Mark looked at Lyra, then said, Then I'll stand beside her. No matter what. Lyra's eyes shimmered softly. She had been traded, feared, hunted, but now, for the first time, she had someone who didn't just see her as a vessel. He saw her as a person, and she wasn't going to forget that. *A. Message from the stars. The station's lights dimmed. An emergency tone echoed through the halls long. Cold, mechanical, unidentified signal detected. Origin, Outer zone. Power class. Unknown. Message incoming. Mark shot up from the bench in the common room. Lyra stood next to him, tense. Even Corval, who rarely showed emotion, tilted his head slightly. Dr. Thorne's voice crackled through the intercom. All personnel to the command center immediately. They didn't wait. In the command center, screens blinked rapidly, with symbols Mark couldn't read, but Lyra could. Her hands trembled. "It's from them," she said softly. "The ones who made me." A technician turned pale. "It broke through every firewall we have. It's not just a message, just alive." Dr. Thorne stood at the center console. "Put it on screen." The image flickered. A figure appeared, tall, faceless, made of shifting white light. Voice was smooth, calm, and terrifying. "To the humans of Earth, you have taken what is not yours. Return the vessel. We will come for her and everything you protect." The screen glitched. The lights above flickered. "Your planet is not ready. Your kind is not worthy. You delay the reset. This is your only warning." Then, silence. Lyra turned to Mark. "They've found me." The mood shifted across the station. Soldiers locked doors. Scientists moved files. Thorne called Earth Command. Mark stayed by Lyra's side. She hadn't spoken since the message ended. She just stared at the stars through the window, her hands clasped tight. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Mark frowned. "What for? I didn't ask for this. I didn't mean to bring danger to your world." Mark shook his head. "This isn't your fault. You didn't call them. They're the ones hunting you." "I'm the reason they're coming," she said, voice shaking. "You're also the reason we might survive it." She turned to him. "You still believe that?" "Yes," Mark said. "Because I've seen what's inside you. It's not a weapon. Something stronger choice." That night, Earth's leaders sent a decision. They wanted Lyra moved to a black site on Mars far from civilians. Dr. Thorne didn't agree. Neither did Mark. But the military wasn't asking. They were coming. "We have 12 hours before the extraction team arrives," Thorne said. Lyra stood in the corner, silent. Mark paced. "They want to lock her away. Treat her like a bomb." "She is more than that," Thorne replied. "But to them, fear matters more than truth." Corval stepped forward. "We cannot win against the creators in battle. The vessel may unlock something that can." Lyra finally spoke. "Then I must go to the vault." Mark blinked. "The what?" "The place where I was made. The vault. It's buried under a dead moon, beyond the dark ring. My mother once mapped it. I remember it now." Thorne's voice was firm. "That place was sealed for a reason." "I know," Lyra replied, "but the answer is there." Mark nodded slowly. "Then we go there. Before the Earth team takes her," Thorne sighed. "If you leave, you won't be able to return." Mark looked at Lyra. "She's worth it." As the human strike ship entered orbit, Mark, Lyra, and Corval boarded the Ghost-class runner once again. Inside, the ship hummed with energy more responsive now to Lyra's presence. The vault's coordinates were deep in uncharted space. The journey would take hours, not days, but Lyra's memories were guiding them now, as stars blurred outside the window. She finally asked Mark a question. "Why do you stay? You could have left me behind." Mark smiled. "I told you. Human. We don't run from people who need us." She paused. "And what if I become something else, something not human?" Mark didn't blink. "Then I'll protect you anyway." They reached the dead moon after 17 hours. No lights, no satellites, no life, just black rocks and silent sky. The vault's entrance was invisible to scanners. Only Lyra could sense it. They landed near a canyon shaped like a spiral. Lyra stepped out first, her eyes glowing gold again. This is it. Corval scanned the area. Energy levels are rising. The vault is reacting to her presence. Mark followed behind. Get answers. Inside the canyon, they reached a circular platform with alien symbols carved into the stone. Lyra placed her palm on the center. The ground shook. A doorway appeared, light pulsing from inside. Blue and white like lightning trapped in glass. She turned to Mark. I don't know what I'll find in there. But if I don't come back, you will, he said. Promise me, she whispered. You won't let them turn me into a weapon. Mark stepped forward and took her hand. I promise. Lyra nodded and walked into the light. Behind her, the door closed. Mark stared at it and prayed that whatever came out was still the girl who once cried for crushed flowers and feared. Small spaces because the vault was ancient, and some doors once opened don't close the same way again. She chose the human. The vault was silent. Mark stood outside the sealed doorway, his rifle strapped across his chest, eyes fixed on the glowing stone. Corval remained still beside him like a statue, scanning every movement in the air it had been. For hours since Lyra stepped inside, no sound, no signal, no word. Mark tapped his earpiece for the 10th time. Lyra, can you hear me? Nothing. He clenched his fists. The promise he made echoed in his mind. Don't let them turn me into a weapon. He wouldn't. Not now. Not ever. Suddenly, the light changed. The blue glow from the vault turned gold. The air hummed. The ground, via B-R-A-T-E. The doorway split open, and Lyra stepped out, but she looked different. Her skin still shimmered softly, but now her eyes held both ancient power and human pain. Strange symbols floated faintly around her, like glowing dust. Her long silver hair was braided back. She stood taller, stronger, but her expression remained gentle. Mark stepped forward. Lyra. She smiled, but it was a quiet smile. Still me? He exhaled in relief. Are you okay? I saw everything, she said softly. My creation, the codes they hid in me. My mother's final edits. The voice inside meets not just a program, it's a being. A fragment of a forgotten intelligence, and now it's awake. Corval bowed slightly. You have completed the merge. I didn't just merge with it, Lyra replied. I made it mine. She walked past the two of them and looked up at the sky. They'll be here soon. Mark followed her gaze. Above the black moon, a fleet of alien ships had arrived. Not Earth's, not friendly. They're early, he muttered. Lyra nodded. They know the vault has awakened. They want to take me now before I finish what I started. What did you start? Mark asked. She turned to him. I sent a signal across all systems. A choice, a warning, a truth. Mark looked confused. What kind of warning? Lyra stepped toward him, eyes glowing gold again. I told them I will not be used by them, by Earth, by anyone. I am not a container anymore. I am me. The ground rumbled as the first enemy drop pod hit the surface nearby. Mark raised his rifle. Get behind me. But Lyra touched his arm. No, let me. She stepped onto the rock ridge, facing the alien soldiers as they poured out tall. Armored cold, they raised their weapons. She raised her hand. The air shattered. A wave of light exploded from her body, silent, pure, unstoppable. The aliens froze mid-step. Their weapons crumbled into dust. Their armor bent inward. Some dropped to their knees. One by one, they deactivated. No death. No blood. Just silence, power without cruelty. Control without war. Mark stared, stunned. What? What did you do? I gave them a choice, she said. I turned off their orders. Now they remember who they are. Corval looked at her in awe. You have rewritten the directive. No, she replied. Oh, I destroyed it. Back at Earth, leaders watched in shock as the alien fleet turned away. The threat was over. Not because of force, but because of her. Days later, Lyra stood at the edge of the Earth's ocean, wearing a long, simple cloak. Mark stood beside her, tossing small stones into the water. "You could have gone anywhere," he said. "I wanted to come here," she replied. "This world feels warm." Mark nodded. "You know, you're kind of a big deal now." She smiled. "I didn't ask to be. You didn't. But you still chose peace. You still chose to protect." Lyra looked at him. "I chose you." Mark blinked. Me?" She stepped closer. "You didn't see me as a weapon, or a threat, or even a mission. You saw me as a person, before I ever believed it myself." Mark looked away, slightly embarrassed. "Well, you are a person. Then I'll stay," she whispered. "Here, with you." The wind moved softly across the beach, and somewhere far above, the stars blinked in silence, watching the girl, who was never meant to be free, finally make her own choice. She was no longer a container. She was no longer a code. She was Lyra, and she had chosen humanity.